having so much fun this month. I hope you guys have been tracking with us with our Austin 101 legislative class, trying to show you guys that it is not impossible to go lobby as Christians. And when I talk about lobbying, I'm talking about influencing our elected officials and our legislation in Austin. But Trayce Bradford, our vice president, who actually spent over a decade going down to Austin and speaking for our pro-family legislation down there, she has been teaching that class, and it's been off the charts. We have one more class coming up in April, so check that out on our christiansengage.org website and register for that, and then we'll send you the videos that are hidden because we're going to produce this as a real online class soon. So we're super excited about that. So with that conversation, we've got three friends. This is the Mom Caucus reunion podcast and video today. So if you don't know about the Mom Caucus, I guess, was it 4 years ago, Trayce, that the Mom Caucus came to be? Okay, 4 years ago, these three women that I'm about to introduce to you found each other in Austin, became fast friends, and they created the Mom Caucus, and they would literally live stream things down in Austin. They inspired different moms to come down and testify for bills. So let me introduce the Mom Caucus, and this is our reunion today. So Trayce Bradford, Vice President of Christians Engaged, former president of Texas Eagle Forum, national chair for National Eagle Forum on trafficking. I mean, the woman is a homeschooling mom of 7. There's nothing she can't do. She's amazing. And then we've got Dana Harris. Dana, at the time that these friends met, was the Texas director of Concerned Women of America and of Texas director. And she now works for Alliance Defending Freedom. And so excited to have her. And then we have Cindy Asmussen, who was then and still is the Ethics and Religious Liberty Advisor for the Southern Baptist of Texas Convention, or you can call her the Legislative Liaison. She's also the Legislative Director for CWA of Texas. Now, women, welcome.
Hey, Bunny.
Woo! Putting us all on gallery view so everybody can see your lovely faces. What a great gift to have you all here today with us. So Trayce, let's start with you. How in the heck was the Mom Caucus born, and is it so great to be together with these women that you love so much?
It's always great to be with them. It's really funny because when I was thinking about how we met, I can remember very distinctly when I met Cindy and when I met Dana separately. There were certain events we were at the Capitol, and they just really stuck out to me. But then somehow we got connected. There was a hearing going on, and we were at home watching it on our live stream. And we started just commenting back and forth with each other. And we got kind of silly, and we realized we really were tracking a lot on the same issue, and just clicked. And so we ended up they were working on a bill that was testifying in state affairs in the Senate right before we had a hearing. So they put us together on the same day. And I think that's really where this whole thing took off, because we got to see each other in person. We got to spend some time together. And from that, we just really had so much fun together. But it was also, I knew right away that these were their moms, but they're also sisters in Christ. And, if you can be with people who believe so strongly in what you believe in and we're fighting for, but you also can have so much fun, I mean, you just can't ask for a better combo. So there it started.
Well, and you're hanging out in Austin for sometimes hours at a time as you're waiting to testify for bills, right? So a lot of downtime, hang out with your Diet Coke or whatever, right? So Dana, you were a full volunteer, as Trayce was, down there in Austin. What in the heck motivated you to volunteer that much time to go down for a whole session in Austin? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, to backtrack on how Trayce and I connected, or how the three of us connected, but Trayce and I think the first time we met was in the hallway. We were passing out papers to different legislative offices and fell in love with her, obviously, because she's fantastic, but thought she was a little bit crazy because she wears these really high heels down to the Capitol. And I'm like, who is that crazy woman wearing the high heels on these marble floors? I need to know her because I want to be her.
Never wanted to be her with her shoe fetish. No.
I know, right? So
Cannot wear heels. So yeah, Tracey is like a goddess to me as far as her shoe fetishes.
I've got a whole new room now to put more shoes.
Girl, yeah. So I was just taken aback by her shoes first and foremost, but then I fell in love with the fact that she's a brilliant mind and the sweetest spirit you'll ever deal with. And then Cindy, you know, she and I were CWA sisters and fell in love with her as well. Just talk about a sweet spirit. But don't let her sweet spirit fool you, because she will kick your tail and take your name and then send you in timeout.
Before you ever know what happened.
I know. So, but why did I get involved? You know, honestly, it was the Lord's doing. When the Lord calls you to do something and you try to not do it, then you're just miserable. And that's not to say that all of the legislative work that I did in Austin for those many years wasn't that it wasn't easy. It certainly wasn't. But knowing that I was there because the Lord called me to it, and if He called me to it, He was going to equip me to do it. That gave me comfort. And these two ladies right here are who helped equip me. The Lord used them to pour into me because I didn't know anything. I was just a little old girl from East Texas that knew that the Lord was going to use me to shape legislation. At the time, I didn't even know the difference between Washington, D.C. and Austin and how all of that fit together. Heaven forbid, don't even think about local politics. So really, it just came out of me being obedient to the Lord's calling, because doing the opposite would have made me even more miserable.
So you're saying that anyone who goes through our Austin 101 class is already 3,000 times step above where you were when you were going down to Austin as the Texas director of CWA. That says a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. When I started out with CWA, I was just a willing hand. They said, show up in Austin and we'll teach you what to do. And so I learned from the ground up from Cindy and the wonderful ladies at CWA that poured into me, with Ann Hettinger and all the other ladies that encircled around me and taught me and poured into me. But yeah, then went up to associate state director as I started learning more and was willing to take on more. And then they were crazy enough to entrust me with a state director role. And that's when the Mom Caucus was born. So yeah, it was a crazy progression from literally knowing nothing to actually understanding what germane meant at that point.
Not a member of the Jackson 5?
We've gone through that, yes. Well, Cindy, let me go to Cindy. Cindy, what in the world motivated you to get into this space? Because you are articulate, you are a researcher. It consumes a lot of your time, and I know a lot of your life and a lot of your heart. So what led you into politics and government and your work that you're currently doing?
Well, it really all started with prayer. I mean, 21 years ago, I just really felt a call to start praying fervently for our nation. And I just started attending some prayer groups, and then I started leading prayer groups. And then one thing led to another. I started teaching biblical worldview studies. And then my boys, when I was homeschooling them, I would enroll them in Patriot Academy classes at the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And while they were doing things there, I would just kind of walk around the Capitol and pray. And then in 2007, got involved with Concerned Women for America of Texas. And like Dana said, just learned so much there as well. And then in the last 6 years, I've still been with CWA of Texas, but also been the legislative liaison with the Southern Baptist of Texas Convention. And my heartbeat is that we would be educated, that the church would be educated and informed and know how to handle some of these things that we're dealing with in our society. You know, Jesus said that he is the light and the truth of the world, and that we as his ambassadors, as his children, are supposed to shine that light and declare that truth in every area and every corner of society. And we are supposed to be that moral compass. The church is supposed to be the moral compass, because we have the answers. We have those answers about life and faith and family and economics and education and civil government. God has provided those answers for us. And without the moral compass of the church and our society, then everything is just chaos. And really what we see now, I mean, everyone's doing what is right in their own eyes if there's no moral compass. And so one of my passions is also just to really help others understand some of the history of our country. A lot of people don't realize the rich history of church involvement in our nation, whether it's, you know, as D. James Kennedy once said, that America was started as a church relocation project by the Pilgrims, who were persecuted in England and then watched the church become deteriorated under immorality in Holland. And then they decided to make that treacherous journey across the ocean to then, found America. And of course, they got off of the Mayflower. Before they got off the Mayflower, they wrote the Mayflower Compact. And one of the things that was so important for them was to bind them together under covenant, under a biblical covenant too, that said that what they were doing was going to be under God for the glory and advancement of the Christian faith. And so we don't even understand anymore just the richness of our history, the Black Robe Regiment, how during the American Revolution, how pastors would go and preach a Sunday sermon and then go and take off their black robes and go and fight. And then even after that, I think about so many different things, like how the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol, for 75 years from the late 1700s to the late 1800s, how the building was used for church services of various Christian denominations, and how our presidents, from Thomas Jefferson to Abraham Lincoln, and even our members of Congress, they would go to these church services every week. And you can find in John Quincy Adams' diary and Thomas Jefferson's diary the many salvations that took place and the fiery sermons that would challenge our elected officials and challenge them to lead wisely and according to the Bible. And so there's just such a richness of the church being involved in the public square. And so when we see what we see now, which is so much retreat from the public square, my passion is to really share with them how we can be involved and how we can be that voice again and that moral compass.
Yes. Go girl. Go girl. So we're trying to get people on the path of prayer, voting, and engagement, right? My job as the president of Christians Engaged is to go find the awakening people out there around Texas and then plug them into habits of prayer, voting, and engagement. And we're pushing people to our on-ramp to political activism class that Tracy and I got to teach together. And now we've been teaching Austin 101, Tracy. You've been writing this. It's been amazing. Talk to us about why people should understand what's happening in the state House and the state Senate. Why is that important?
Well, it impacts our lives, and we're seeing it more and more, just how much control they can have for good or for not so good. And I think all three of us realized we were kind of on our own. We didn't know exactly, even if you follow all the rules that are in the books, just as we've been going over how you testify, but they can, the chair can do whatever, or they can suspend the rules. And so you really, even though you may study something, part of it's just having the guts to just jump in there, just get in there and try. But what's become so, I think when we were doing Mom Caucus, one of the reasons people clicked with that is we were moms. We are moms. Now, you can already see, don't let that fool you about Dana and Cindy. These are very sharp people, very wise women who do look for the leading of the Lord, but also very, very smart and pick up on things and strategy. But I think having the three of us too, we could kind of help encourage each other, when there were some times where you're just like, I just can't do this, or it's just not going to go anywhere, or I'm trucking down a wrong way. And they'd be like, hey, what about this? And what I think is so important, and I see it when we're doing this one-on-one class, a lot of the people signing up weren't my family members. They were people we don't know.
A lot of people we don't know. We're very thankful for those people.
And that's very exciting to me. And it was exciting when we do the Mom Caucus and some sweet lady would come up at an event and go, the Mom Caucus. And we're like, who is this? And it wasn't being ugly. It was just we didn't know. But they had started watching and they could relate. They could relate to our frustration. They could relate to us repeatedly saying, read the bill. They could
hashtag read the bill.
And they could see where, sometimes we were in a hallway, sometimes we were outside. Just sometimes when we would just be laughing if you couldn't laugh, you'd cry. And I just think they felt like a little part of that. And what I love and what I'm seeing, and I saw it then, I'm seeing it now, is just your everyday, that's who we are. We are the everyday voter. We're the citizen who believes that God gave us the ability to steward this nation. It's a gift and it's a responsibility. And so it's very exciting to see people want to be involved and want to understand. And I wouldn't trade those experiences for the world. I mean, there were definitely days we wanted to pull our hair out and just get just so frustrated. But at the same time, man, we learned so much, and we got to celebrate when one of the others, a bill would move or get passed. And again, we're moms. It's not to take away like, oh, we're just moms. But I mean, we are the voices that matter. The people that are just going in their neighborhoods and living out their lives, speak up. If we don't, they're going to just keep doing what they're doing if they don't hear from us.
There's something that happens when you have children, as we all know. You start caring about what's going to happen in the future, right? So, Dana, what was your awakening moment? And then how did you, I'm kind of going off script here, but how did you overcome some of those insecurities to just get up there in a camera on a Facebook Live and talk about bills and, rally people to come to Austin and testify? I mean, talk a little bit more about that from your perspective.
Yeah. I love to tell how the Lord woke me up, literally shook my being and got me engaged in this process. And He used life to do it and children to do it. So back in 2013, I think most of us will remember Wendy Davis filibustering the pro-life bill, trying to oppose it, kill the pro-life bill in the Senate. I was a young mom at that point. I say young. How many years ago was that? Yeah, I was a young mom. The kids were teenagers. I know, still young. The kids were teenagers. My kids are now 20 something and 27, 23 and 22. I don't even know. Does it matter when they get to be 20 something?
No, when they're 20, it's over.
Yeah. My job's done. So I had set up a Twitter account basically to keep an eye on my children because I didn't want them to tarnish the family name. I didn't know what I was doing on Twitter. I was a Facebook kind of gal. And so I set up this Twitter account and was just trying to follow people. And it was all of their youth group friends. And one of the kids in the youth group tweeted, #LetWendySpeak. And I was like, whoa, what does that mean? What's a hashtag? And who is Wendy? And why does he want her to speak? So I Googled Let Wendy Speak. And I was mortified, number one, that a young man in our youth group thought it was okay for a pro-life bill to be killed on the Senate floor in Texas. So I needed to talk to his parents, first of all. And then second of all, I needed to understand why Fox News did not tell me that Texas was not that pro-life. And why was this going on in Texas? And I thought, these people ought to be ashamed. And immediately I became convicted. And the Lord said, Dana, this is your fault. You have allowed this. You think because you listen to Rush Limbaugh when you're picking the kids up from school, or you think because you tune in and hear sound bites on Fox News that you're educated. You think because you love me, that makes you an automatic conservative where political matters come into being. And I was convicted that I was one that would just love to do this and didn't do anything to engage in the process. I wasn't an active voter. I would vote in general elections. Primaries, if I knew somebody, and don't get me started on local, like city council elections, because that just makes my eyes glaze over. And so I was not engaged in the process. The Lord convicted me of that. And I started praying, Lord, where do you want to put me? Because obviously here I am. I'm ready to be used. Show me what you want me to do. And within weeks of that time, he gave me a private message on Twitter from a CWA gal who's Tanya Shelnut. She was the CWA state director in Montana at the time. And actually, she's in South Carolina now. And long story short, she connected me with CWA of Texas and got me plugged in with all the great ladies there who started just pouring into me. I set up a prayer and action chapter in my church and just started the process of learning everything. And like I said a while ago, I literally didn't know DC from Austin. People would say, "Who's your state senator?" I'm like, "Ted Cruz." And no, you're state senator. So, but now I can relate to people who say, when I say, "Who's your state senator?" and they go, "Ted Cruz." And I'm like, "Oh, baby girl, I used to be you." Because
this is so powerful. Yeah, Dana, you're giving us the example of exactly the people we're looking for with Christians Engaged as we go into churches, we talk to people. And we're awakening. So there's so many people listening right now. They're going, "That's me. God help me." Well, we're here for you, my friends. That's what this podcast is happening. That's why we're creating these classes. Don't lose out. Get involved. So, Cindy, you are super passionate. This is another area that people need to focus on. And then we're going to get into funny stories that you guys want to share about each other. So hang on, friends. But Cindy, break down for us a little bit. School boards, schools, our kids' education. This is one thing that drives women to vote. This is one thing that drives women to pay attention. What is going on, and how are you impacting that, and why is you so passionate about it?
Well, for starters, I mean, moms, we oversee what our children eat. We oversee who our kids are playing with, what books are they reading, what movies are they watching. We oversee their spiritual, well-being, getting them to church. And, I always think about the fact that we work really hard as moms. We don't have this unlimited amount of time to pour into our children or our grandchildren, at this stage of the game too. And so we then go out and we send them out into the world. We send them to school. We send them to the store. We send them to the doctor's office sometimes. We send them to the church. Wherever. We send them out. And now what we see so many times is people that want to say the very opposite to our children of what we're teaching them. They want to not only give them the opposite of what we're teaching them at home, but then they want to try to shut parents down or shut us down and say, it doesn't really matter what you think. We're going to force feed this stuff to your kids anyway. And that right there just makes me want to get my mom caucus wooden spoon out, because that is unacceptable. And so what we have happening in our society is we are so tired of not only having our own children attacked, we're watching other children be attacked. I have been a foster mom and adopt mom. I see what these children in the foster care system are going through. We are seeing not only our children attacked, but our parental rights are being attacked. And so one of the good things that I am seeing beginning to happen more and more is it seems like parent groups are really forming to make an impact, such as like Stand for Fort Worth. They started several years ago from some parents who began to speak out against the Fort Worth superintendent up there that was going to unilaterally pass transgender guidelines to the entire school district and force these guidelines on 80,000 students and all the teachers to follow. And they began to stand up and they began to get other parents involved and say, no, this is not, we didn't vote for this. We didn't get to attend a school board meeting and even have a chance to vote on this. And so they really began to speak out. They have a Facebook page. We have even other groups like Concerned Parents of Texas. They began to see all of this curricula, this pornographic, graphic sex ed curricula at Austin ISD. And they began to attend school board meetings. They began to speak out. And now they not only expose what Austin ISD is doing, but they teach and they train parents. We have had recently a big uproar in Leander School District where parents are learning what their kids are reading on the recommended reading list, or I should say not even recommended. They have to choose from these reading lists for language classes. And these books that they're finding on these reading lists are graphic, they're pornographic materials. And so they have formed together and they have stood up and they have told the school district, no, we demand that these be removed immediately from these lists. And so that is, these are some of the things that I'm finding. It always helps to work in groups, kind of like what Tracy and Dana have been talking about. When we all three of us kind of just found each other, it really helped us. It strengthened us. It emboldened us to begin to work harder and that we could speak out on issues that we weren't maybe really wanting to speak out about alone, that we were willing, I don't think there's much that we're unwilling to speak about together. And so, so it really helps to get together and form these groups, get involved, go to the school board meetings or watch them online and just watch and listen and find out, here we are in cancel culture, canceling Mr. Potato Head and Pepe Le Pew and, what else, Dr. Seuss. And yet we have, Cardi B and the Netflix cuties. That's the form of entertainment they're wanting to push upon our children. And we need to also demand from our elected officials, to step in and to help us. We have, the men going into women's and little girls' dressing rooms and bathrooms, and our elected officials need to help us. They need to stop this. We don't want weak elected officials. We want people who are strong, who are decisive, who are willing to step into the fire and to the fray and say, no, not on our watch. We want to help you protect your children. And so we need to also hold our elected officials accountable too. And if they're not willing to do the job, then they need to either step out of the way or we primary them out. And so these are things that moms can do, and it just starts with maybe one meeting or finding another group in your community to go in and help do some of these things.
So good. Everybody can play a part. Everybody can do something. That's what we're called to do, is try to help you find your place, right? What's passionate in your heart and how you can impact your community. Okay. Each of you tell a funny story about your time together. One funny story, the top one that comes to your mind. Go, Tracy.
Oh,
Mom
God.
Caucus funny story.
Oh, okay. There's so many. But the time we were teaching the citizen track at the Patriot Academy. And I think we laughed so much through, y'all know, the ice cream, and then we went and did that rally, and it was so hot, and we were standing out there doing that rally, and there was the person standing with do you remember the toilet seat? And that got in the paper, and we were just laughing because there was the three of us worshiping and praying, and there was
a random person with a toilet seat. That had to be interesting.
You just had to laugh because there was stuff that was happening that was so ridiculous. But we would just get to where, we just kept giggling. And then Cindy testifying, playing because they asked us to testify as they were training the military track. So here are all these military people sitting up there practicing, what they've learned. And Cindy gets up there and they think they've met this really friendly lady. And she just transformed into this, I don't know what you think you're doing, taking my kids. And you could see them looking like, we thought we knew this lady. And I'm texting Dana going, get in here.
You're all laughing, all these fun times that moms were down in Austin. Okay, Dana, your funniest story.
Oh goodness, it's a toss up. Between the video, the Mom Caucus After Hours video at Cindy's house. Oh, that is comedic gold. And if you guys haven't watched it, go to the Mom Caucus page and go back and watch it. We were delirious. It was hilarious. And then that one, or the 3-hour car ride to get to the Capitol that day. Remember that?
Yeah.
A trip that normally took us 30 minutes. Of course, Austin's wonderful traffic took us
Beautiful
3 hours. Oh, and
That's
we
not
had to
an
stop.
exaggeration.
No, we had to make pit stops along the way, and my blood pressure was up here. Yeah. Anyway, we have stories to tell.
Well, can you top that, Cindy?
Oh, probably not. But I do just remember kind of a general funny thing that always used to make me chuckle because, here we were just amateurs and very, of course, underfunded, under-resourced, and we didn't even have a tripod to do our videos on. And so before we even were able to find one to borrow, we went through multiple videos where, of course, Dana is holding her phone and she's the one doing it. And so we're all squeezing in there together. And none of us have any lack of words, right? And so we're wanting to tell a lot about what's going on at the Capitol and everything. And Dana's holding it with her arm, like, my arm's dying and any day now, y'all. And so, we start hurrying up, and every video we kind of towards the end, we're speeding up. Here we are trying to get the information out to the entire state of Texas. And Dana's like, I've got to go. My arm is falling off. Here, Tracey and I keep speaking really, really fast and faster. And
I'm like,
okay, bye.
No, seriously, my arm is falling off. Stop.
Well, because these will be like 10, 15 minutes.
It's not easy to talk about bills and talk about hearings and the whole process on Facebook Live while your arm's falling off.
Right.
No, that must have been very fun.
And then when we'd get caught in the back hallways doing the videos because we didn't want to go outside and have to come back in and go through security. And then when I got my LTC, I got to go through the express line at the Capitol while those two losers were still back there getting their purses searched.
So if you don't know this, guys, if you get your concealed handgun license, you don't have to go through security in Austin at the Capitol.
I have now.
Well, you do this session. Yes, I forget things changed with COVID. Anyway, okay, before we get to, I'm going to have you just say real quick, how do we impact change? The first thing that comes to your mind. But before that, I want to ask the funny question. What is the one show that your kids watch to nauseam that you just will never watch again for the rest of your life? It could be a cartoon, it can be a movie. What is that one thing that you think about that you're like, oh, if I ever have to see that thing again, I'm going to die? What is that?
Barney. Oh, have mercy. That's the generation of my kids. Yeah, I've had enough of the purple dinosaur.
Yeah, purple dinosaur. No.
Yeah.
Mine kind of span the ages. With Barney was my first thought, and then with Zeke, he always wanted to watch Cars, and so I got really burned out on that. And so now we're getting burned out on Frozen round 2.
Yeah, mine was Donut Man. Remember Donut Man?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, Donut Man. Okay,
Yeah,
Cindy.
SpongeBob SquarePants. And Life According to SpongeBob SquarePants.
I think he was created to irritate the heck out of parents.
Mm-hmm.
That voice. Oh my God.
Yeah, and Blue's Clues. Oh, if I ever watch Blue's Clues again. Okay, so to finalize this wonderful podcast, thank you guys for joining us. This is the Mom Caucus reunion. These ladies have not been together in Austin, but we're still all playing our part for the cause of liberty. It's amazing what God does with one season of your life that propels you to another season. So I just want to honor all of you all for fulfilling your seasons and knowing what season you're in and still serving our great country and our great state. So with that, one sentence, how do we impact change? Trayce Bradford.
Say yes. Say yes to engage. Look what can happen.
Good.
voice.
Dana.
Never stop learning. Continue to be teachable.
Beautiful. Cindy.
Just take one small step of faith in a direction, and God will open up the next door and the next door. Just one small step of faith.
Amen. Be teachable. Just go for it. Just do it. And let's change Texas and America. Love you guys. Thank you so much, Mom Caucus.